Time to elevate. You're running on empty with Matt and Tony.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Running on Empty. I'm Matt.
And I'm Tony.
And we're running on empty. And boy, this one is, like I said, I say this every single time, but I'm really excited about this interview because we got Matt Beringer on the show. And we're both from the same entertainment background. So it's going to be great to kind of find out what's going on.
Absolutely. And we had Matt on, I think it was last August.
Correct.
Not really, it wasn't yet the high point of the pandemic, but we were moving in that direction. And just as a reminder for people, Matt Beringer operates 4 venues as part of the Pabst Theater Group down in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He operates the Pabst, the Riverside, the Turner Hall Ballroom, and the back room at Collectivo. And before the pandemic, he was organizing over 700 shows a year. And first of all, Matt, welcome back. Thanks for coming back.
It's great to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, before we get to what has happened at your venues, let's talk a little bit about Milwaukee. Milwaukee Bucks, as we record today, it's July 6th. And I think tonight is going to be the first game of the NBA Finals. And what does that mean for Milwaukee, Matt?
It's a huge deal for Milwaukee. I mean, just, the juxtaposition of where we were even just a couple of months ago in terms of the activity downtown and seeing people, it is truly a paradigm shift. And, obviously just the, little bit of oxygen at full capacity events and seeing crowds again and that kind of thing is one thing. But there's this whole other energy associated with this team, associated with the Deer District, and just the excitement. And I think, man, this is just, I've been a lifelong Bucks fan, too young to have seen them in a championship. And so that would make me under 50. And besides that, I mean, really, right? And so they are, it's just, I mean, downtown is really alive. It's amazing to see people, out and about. The Deer District. I don't know if you've seen anything on TV with the Deer District, but that's to say 25,000 people down there for the away game against the Hawks. It's just electric down here.
How did you we were saying before we started recording that on ESPN First Take, Stephen A. Smith and his co-host were really dissing Milwaukee. They were basically praying that Atlanta would win because they just didn't want to go to Milwaukee. And you had the sense these people had not been to Milwaukee in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, if you get down here, it's a party. I mean, right now it's a party. There's just, there breweries and restaurants and everything is open. People are stoked and having a great time. And honestly, if you listen to the other analysis, people are saying, hey, these are the greatest sports fans in the world. And, the Milwaukee Bucks fandom, the enthusiasm of those fans actually, it predated the Giannis era. Fear of the Deer is before Giannis, and it's awesome to have the group of players that we have, and they're truly something to cheer about. But we've had great fans here in a great city for a long time.
Well, I am old enough to remember the last Milwaukee Bucks championship team. That would have been 47 years ago. And they had a guy named Lou Alcindor at the time who became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And after they won that championship, I'll never forget this. Lou Alcindor said, I got to get out of Milwaukee. He basically said, I don't think Milwaukee is a place I'll be happy. Now, contrast that with Giannis, who's the big star of the current team, and Chris Middleton and guys like that. They love Milwaukee. They see themselves as part of the community. And by the way, this current group of Milwaukee Bucks, I mean, I don't think it's an exaggeration, Matt. These guys are like social justice activists. Is that fair?
Drew Holiday and I mean, Giannis was right out there in the marches, and that was one of the big things last year in the bubble, where they were the first team to take a knee and sit out the playoff game when the Jacob Blake thing was going on as well. So they're definitely socially conscious. They're active in the community. Can't say enough great things about the Milwaukee Bucks. And you know what is cool is they actually have the backing of their owners and the backing of management in that too.
Yeah.
You know, this is a very good organization up here in Milwaukee.
That's nice. That's really nice to hear.
So no matter what Stephen A. Smith says, he's just doing that for he's doing that for attention. I mean, that's part of his brand, and it is. I think it's unfortunate that you know, it comes at the expense of a knock on Milwaukee, but he's just doing that for that's part of what he does and what he does. Right. He has to say controversial things.
All right. Well, the Bucks are obviously bringing a lot of bodies.
Yeah.
To Milwaukee. The Milwaukee Brewers are also. They're having a great year in baseball.
They're still good. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Matt, how much is that translating into your venues? Let's make the transition now into what's going on with your venues.
Sure.
So we're now in August of 2021. We talked to you almost a year ago.
Yeah.
You were, down 700 shows. So
it was a much less optimistic time.
Yeah, much less optimistic back in August of 2020. So tell us now, what's going on right now?
Well, I think, our business kind of operates on lead time. We're not like a sports team where we say, okay, the schedule is the schedule. And so we need a little more time to get going than some of the pro sports teams in terms of just opening up their doors to fans and that kind of thing based on the way things are scheduled. So we're having our first full capacity show here on Saturday with an artist named Rhett Miller. It'll be in our 300 capacity room. That show will be sold out, and it's going to join the parade of a large amount of shows that we have coming up in the fall where demand has been very, very good. And people are really motivated to get out. And yeah, you can look at it again, you get back to a city like Milwaukee. I mean, they've moved Summerfest out to September. And at first, we look at it and go, oh my gosh, we've got all these comedy shows and concerts and that kind of stuff right in these weekends that Summerfest is taking place. But I got to tell you, people are buying tickets regardless. People are excited to get out. People are really excited for Summerfest here in the city too. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's really encouraging to see. And I think that first part of the year or the last part of this year that we're going to see as things come back, the artists that are out on tour right now are going to be the ones that can come in, do the weekend shows, come in, things like comedy, and some of these artists, like I have like a multi-night run with a band called Widespread Panic.
Oh yeah.
Does a big, so we're doing 4 nights with them.
They've got quite a following, don't they?
Yeah. So when we put that show on sale, back in March, and it was when we were still kind of testing the waters on what's safe to put on sale, because we're still in a time where people are rescheduling things. But that was when the vaccine rollout was starting to really kind of take place, and we had announced the show on a Tuesday at 3:00, and I had my first guy in line for the Friday on sale. He was in line on Tuesday at 5:30.
Wow! And
he stayed overnight and waited, and we had. Those shows, blew out in a matter of minutes. So it's really an optimistic time. We're feeling really good. People are, and I think we give a lot of credit to the vaccine rollout. We give a lot of credit to, the folks that have given us the ability right now to be in business. It's a great time.
So now we have to pray that, in the fall, we don't get like some really bad variant or something.
Yeah, the Delta is
something like that, right? I mean, it's still up in the air whether or not the vaccines are good against that, right?
I heard that the Johnson & Johnson one, it was very effective against this Delta variant. I just had the Moderna one yesterday. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I just think it would be horrible if, you get all your shows booked and then we get hit with another like serious case of this.
Yeah, I think that, and Matt, I'd be interested to hear your perspective on this too, but I think that there may be a little bit of a I wouldn't say it's like a toothpaste is out of the tube kind of moment or anything like that, but I do think that it would be maybe, I don't think it's right to think that people's reactions will be the same as they were along the lines of the original lockdowns, or the way that we'll deal with it in terms of events or in terms of as a society, because I think that things have changed so dramatically.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
With some of the sporting events I've seen here in Colorado, and with concerts, like if you want to go to Red Rocks, it can seat 10,000, but they're capping it at 2,500. So like Jimmy Buffett's going to do 4 concerts versus, 1 or whatever the case is. But sporting events, like the Rockies, you can sit in the vaccinated section or the unvaccinated section. And if you want the better seats, you better have a vaccine, otherwise it's all the eligible seats. There's nothing wrong with those seats, but I get what they're saying. Even when we do corporate events with sports teams, they're insisting that the people coming in to do these events are vaccinated, when we do like fundraisers and whatnot. So with regards to your venues, was there talk about maybe like a vaccinated, unvaccinated? What is that, or what might that look like?
Yeah, it's not taking place very, very frequently, in terms of concert venues of our size.
Sure.
Personally, I would say that if I felt like it was within the industry norm, we would be the first in line to say, hey, these should be, there should be some considerations for vaccines. And we do have some artists coming through and now wanting to kind of experiment with that idea. Sure. I've heard criticism, which I don't think is correct, of people saying, well, if you require vaccines, that's going to be a drop off for your business. I actually would go in the other direction and say, at least for me personally, this is just purely anecdotally, I would be more inclined to go to an event if I knew that there was a vaccine requirement. I'd be more inclined to get on a plane if I knew that it wasn't just, hey, you got to have a negative COVID test, but also that everybody on the plane was vaccinated. And especially when I'm thinking about frankly, bringing my kids on the plane, that kind of stuff. It's just, and so, for us right now, that's not as much of the dialogue as I think we kind of wish that it was.
Sure.
But right now we're trying to stay within what the industry norms are.
Right.
Yeah.
So Matt King, you've had a comeback too, right? Why don't you tell our audience about your comeback?
Yeah. Well, everything was, non-existent. Matt and I, you talked about it when we did our first interview. It was March 13th, March 14th of 2020. Everything just felt like dominoes. And June this year was the resurgence of the casino business that we do. And, we rely a lot on our casinos. And so we're very thankful that casinos started doing things again at the beginning of June, because now we've got now Milwaukee. We work with Potawatomi in Milwaukee, and they're a great annual client, have been for the last 10 years. But they have no department right now. I mean, they're like, they furloughed a lot of people, so they don't have the staff to kind of bring back what we used to do. So something for them might be coming back in the fall, but they're playing it very, very careful at the casino. The casino in North Dakota, everybody on the floor is supposed to wear masks, and employees are supposed to wear masks. Yeah, that's the casino, the reservations rule. But when we did the live show the other night, normally we can sit 650 people in there, and I think they capped it at 350, so about 50%. And it was a dinner thing, so nobody was wearing a mask. We didn't, as crew, we wore them, but hosting on stage did not have to wear it. So every casino is a little bit different, but I'm just thankful that they're doing things again. My wife said that when people can start doing things again, the floodgates are going to open, and they've opened. But we're actually, it's crazy, but we actually are starting to have to turn things down just because there's so many people wanting to do things. And that's, I guess, a good problem to have, but I don't like to say no,
Yeah.
But it's interesting to hear that you're still getting capacity restrictions in some of those areas, because I think that largely, at least in our corner of the world, that conversation is pretty much done.
Yeah. In Colorado, there's definitely that. And then the showroom that we did, but I think that's going to be changing very, very quickly. But, like you said before, I don't want to see some resurgence of this. And until we get to that herd immunity level, whatever it was, that 70% or 80%,
yeah.
there's a lot of misinformation out there right now. There's, if you look online, you could see people talking about the Delta variant is a hoax to try to convince people to get vaccinated so they can be tracked. And I'm like, your cell phone in your pocket kind of does a really good job of that, but yeah, I try not to pay attention to all that because I just am happy to be back to work. I'm happy that we are literally booked every month through the end of the year and into 2022. I'm hoping that, Matt, your calendar looks very much the same as that.
Very similar. Yeah.
Awesome. So,
Matt Beringer, when you were on last time, you talked about, and this was really sad, the amount of people that you had to cut their jobs. Are you able to bring back much of your staff or some of your staff?
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, we're in the process of rehiring to full levels.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Awesome.
And, it gave us a good opportunity. I mean, you furlough staff or lay them off. Ultimately, people get on with their lives and go on to do other things and that sort of thing. So there will certainly be some new faces, but the flip of it is that gives us an opportunity to take a look at our company and say, hey, what's the right way to build this? We built this sort of over time, over 18 years, and what should it really look like in terms of servicing the venues that we're doing and all that kind of thing. I always kind of think of it as how do you build your brick house from a business standpoint. And for us, it has been about taking a look at, our personnel and saying, hey, what, as we rehire, what's the good, deliberative, intelligent way to structure it? Yeah.
Yeah. I just brought on 2 more people just because we're getting that busy. And I'm excited that, there's people out there, good people. Well, the production industry obviously was hit stupidly hard. So there's a lot of people out there looking, but we've got a very tight knit family. So we try to go with the people that we know that we work with, and everybody on my end is a contractor. And it just, for me, the way, we do it makes a whole lot of sense just because we're in 3 different states and it's kind of hard to do we were an S corp at one time, but I just like doing it the way we do it now. It just makes it easy. But it's what's fun is that, getting the team back together, getting the folks. Did you get the PPP, by the way? Did you get your PPP?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes,
Awesome.
we did. Yes, we did.
Mine came in a year late. I applied for it right away and it didn't come in until this April. But that allowed me to get my programmers back on. I mean, I'm a year and a half behind the games,
It's really funny because Tony, I think you had written to me sometime around the time of the aid that was taking place. And I was very torn about the whole thing because I think the comment that you had made, which was absolutely correct, was that the aid that was out there back in the spring was a Band-Aid, but it wasn't nearly enough.
Right.
I think the flip of it was, thank goodness what was there was there. And, and especially in our industry, there's a whole other set of things going on in concerts from the standpoint of federal aid and that kind of stuff. And it ended up being a very bureaucratic process. Ultimately, as slowly but surely, it looks like the concert venues are getting the support that they needed, the independent concert venues.
Cool.
To get out there and compete and get back on their feet. Because as we talk about things like demand and we talk about those things coming back, that's all great, but it doesn't, it definitely doesn't make up for just this absolute, bottom dropping out on everything. And so it's excellent that we're all experiencing a resurgence in our businesses. It's great to see audience demand is back and that we're not talking about people being afraid to go out or anything like that, for the most part. But it's a complicated, this kind of government aid conversation is a very complicated conversation and you never want to turn it down. And I think it saved a lot of businesses and it saved a lot of people, but there are certainly better approaches, than some of what took place, especially early on in the pandemic.
Well, I think what hurts us as a country is every time there's a need for assistance, our public debate about it is just stupid, right? Like a good example is what's going on right now with the $300 unemployment insurance, which the governor of our state of Wisconsin, Evers, wants to continue. And we keep getting into this nonsensical debate about whether, people are staying home and choosing not to work because, I don't know, if you're making $300 extra a week or a month, I mean, you're not living high off the hog.
No.
But that's the kind of stupid debate we get into, as opposed to a more intelligent debate, which would be, what should be a reasonable wage for someone who's working full time, right?
So it's a conversation we're having, and it's a conversation we've made changes already to try to walk the walk on that. Because it is, I think that there is a debate to be had about how does that affect things like inflation and that sort of thing, but probably it probably should lead more to a conversation about a living wage, and less about a conversation of we need to remove this immediately or anything like that. I do think that there are good reasons to say, let's, take a look at unemployment and try to understand what issues it is or isn't creating. But ultimately, you're absolutely right. At the base of it this is about a living wage for people. It's about a living wage for people who want to, work in areas or who are coming up into new careers or supporting a family with that wage.
I mean, I just have to laugh when I hear I hear restaurant owners that are so disappointed about the shortage of workers. I mean, okay,
stop paying $3 an hour plus tip.
Exactly. So do they think that people are supposed to just happily start going out and working for tips? I mean, this is a good time after this pandemic to start having a intelligent debate about what are reasonable wage and labor standards in this day and age. But
the conversation's completely changed. It's now in the hands of the employee. The employee's got to control, and the business owners don't necessarily like that. I will use the entertainment industry as not necessarily part of that, because I have always paid far more than minimum wage for the shows and things for our people. Mm-hmm. I know, I mean, we don't have as obviously many as positions as you have, Matt, but ours is like, you're going to drive a truck, you're going to set up, you're going to take down, we got rigging, we got, all that stuff. So, and those folks are paid pretty good.
I think it's challenging. I think there are aspects of the business. This is one thing that I always point to that we're cautious about, is I think that there are aspects of the business, specifically our business, where people can be taken advantage of. One of the corollaries I point to is, you always talk about people getting into the video game and software industry and how competitive that is. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, you have some of these companies that set up, they understand that people have been working towards this literally since they were, young kids.
Right.
And they're worked incredibly long hours for, low wages. And it does have to do with grabbing onto that passion for what you do, or grabbing onto, hey, this is my dream. And now that you're in it, you have some of the business owners taking advantage of it, or some of the corporations taking advantage of it. And for us, that's been something that, we're always cognizant of, but it's not, that's not the, universal throughout the industry. I don't think.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So Matt, you mentioned Rhett Miller and Widespread Panic. What other shows will be coming to your venue?
I mean, you name it. We've got a ton of stuff. We're opening with, in August, we've got like an oldies, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. We're bringing Modest Mouse back. We've got this, indie band Churches coming in. I've got a ton of comedy, things like
does Frankie Valli sell out?
It does quite well.
Yeah, that's just amazing.
Wow. Yeah, it does quite well. To me. Yeah, and I mean, comedy is off the charts for us right now.
Really,
those shows are doing exceptionally well. We're talking about weekends on top of weekends for comedy. So, it's going to be busy for sure, no question about that.
How many seats for your comedy venue?
Well, we do comedy in all the venues.
Okay.
So we're a wide range. We're doing shows, primarily at the Pabst for 1,300, but the Riverside's 2,400, and we've got a lot of shows that are doing multiples there. We're promoting outside of our venues this fall with Bill Burr at the Miller High Life Theater.
Oh, wow.
and that show is 2 sold out shows at 4,000 seats. So,
oh man,
demand is back.
great.
Yeah, demand
That's
is
awesome.
back.
Thumbs up on that.
I mean, it makes sense that comedy would be doing well, right? We could all use a laugh after what we've been through.
Yes,
Seriously.
Yeah, and it's it's good. It was one of the forums that for sure was flexible enough to say, hey, I think that's one of the things you're going to see in 2022, by the way, is a lot of these larger, more choreographed tours out on the road. Matt, I'm sure, as you know, you're dealing with smaller productions, but even just the concept of, am I going to put on a truck on the road? Am I going to get a crew?
Yeah.
Planning all in those areas in terms of technical production, that sort of thing, where you're building it from the ground up. That takes many, many months, and they want to make sure that their investments are safe. So when we look into 2022, I think you're going to see a lot of really exciting big tours coming through.
Yeah.
Wow.
The one thing if there's to be a silver lining with this pandemic is that I've always called it like the great equalizer, the great reboot. The way that we're doing things has been completely redone and revamped.
Correct.
I mean, we've looked at things from a completely new set of eyes, especially since I felt like I almost died of COVID. Your morality comes in and you're like,
oh, you did?
Oh yeah, I got it bad. I got it really bad in April. My wife and I both had the same time. We were down for 2 weeks and then we stayed home an extra week just to make sure it was gone. So yeah, it was not a good thing, but I've got like a completely renewed sense of everything with regards to my business, with life in general, with how we approach things. And I got this massive creative bug these last few weeks that we're going crazy on video game design for our casinos. Now that we've got our PPP phase 1 and phase 2, thank you very much, U.S. government. We're able to go and literally go balls to the wall with all the software design because we're a year and a half behind. But
wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
It was definitely a reboot, and I like the direction we're going because I think we're taking a few more calculated risks. Like you said, you evaluate everything, and I think that the direction, as long as nothing screws it up, I think the direction is going to be incredibly promising rest of this year and in 2022 and beyond.
That's amazing. That's great for both of you. Matt, last time you were here, the DNC had canceled the convention, right, in Milwaukee, the convention that nominated Joe Biden. Has there been any talk about bringing that back in 2024, or is Milwaukee out of it now?
If there is, I have not heard it.
Okay.
I have no idea. I think that they make decisions based on. I don't think there's a lot of momentum for a make good on that, but we'll see.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, well, that'd be unfortunate.
It's disappointing.
Because that was one of the biggest disappointments, right? Because that would have brought tens of thousands of people there for like 5 or 6 days or more.
Yeah, I mean, we were teed up for Milwaukee's greatest summer there because at the time, we get a redo here with the Bucks, but yeah, definitely at the time you had the DNC was going to come off, and we had just I think amazing concerts playing throughout the city, and that's right.
So what website can people go to find concert and other show information about your venues?
For us, it's pabsttheater.org. PABSTTHEATER.org.
Okay.
Pabst Theater.
Yeah. Pabsttheater.org. So people can find ticket information and the good thing about your venues, Matt, is that they're all very affordable.
Generally, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for someone like a Bill Burr, what would be like the priciest ticket for a Bill Burr?
So the top ticket on that, I think, is about $75. But there are tickets down in the 40s for it as well. Yeah.
Okay, and even that, I mean, come on.
For me, anything under $100 is an affordable concert.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything out here, man, you're looking at $300-$400 plus the Eagles, all that other stuff. I would love to go, but that's just a ridiculous ticket price.
Hey, look, you can come see Wisconsin native Charlie Behrens from the Manitowoc Minute for $25 at the Riverside right now. So.
Yeah, I love Charlie Behrens. And a buddy of mine, my production manager, actually is doing his show up at the Crystal Grand. He's a kind of house manager up there. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it depends the show, though. I mean, look, like Rhett Miller is going to be $15. That's incredibly affordable.
Yeah.
We've got lots of things.
When's Charlie Behrens?
January.
Oh,
January.
Charlie Behrens. He's great. He's what Wisconsin and all Midwest life should actually be like.
Funny guy.
We got to get him on the show, Tony.
Yeah, we should.
You should, yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're just about out of time. Matt, thank you so much for coming back and giving us an update.
It's good talking. I'm glad it could be more optimistic this time.
Yeah, so are we. All right. Let's do it again sometime soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Matt. We'll see you next time. Hey, Tony, this was, as I always say, an amazing interview, but because this industry is so near and dear to my heart, I really like the insight and the good news that Matt was able to share with us for this interview.
Yeah, I'm really thrilled for both Matt Beringer and for you that your businesses have just made a comeback now. And I'm sure you guys will never forget 2020 and early 2021. It was pretty rough, wasn't it?
Yeah. I really, like I said, it was a reboot, and we've got such an optimistic look on things. I just don't want something to screw it up. But I really just want to forget the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It was between the time that I stopped working and the time that I started working again was 411 days. I was not comfortable with it. But it, we're doing okay. We survived this crazy thing. We got enough help to survive and make it through. And now I'm just really grateful to be back with my crew, being on the road, making people laugh, making people smile. Our first show back on a stage, man, I actually got really choked up. I had just lost my dad, and so I'm back doing what I love to do. And I hired my dad a long time ago to work with me.
Wow.
I got some cool pictures of that. And Jody said, I got home, and she goes, they were sitting in the front row. And I'm like, yeah. So it just, like I said, it's a renewed perspective, and it's far more optimistic. Of course, the way the kind of person I am prior to COVID versus who I am now. I mean, not that it's like a drastic difference, but I definitely see things with a renewed sense of optimism and care, compassion, et cetera. Because you don't know what a lot of these people have been through out there.
That's right.
Other folks, I mean, I'm trying to, and Jody does every single day on her Facebook page. She posts something positive, and people thank her for that.
Yeah, she does.
And we were in a situation the other night on the 3rd of July, sitting down at a pub, watching a couple of friends, play their instruments and whatnot, buskers, whatever. But we're sitting in essentially a Trump tavern. Not one person talked about politics, and we all got along. And I'm like, isn't this great, man? We are celebrating essentially our 4th of July here, and we can all sit here, toast with each other, and get along. So
that's wonderful.
That's I think the biggest sense of renewal is to try to, if I start to see the divide, well, let's quash that right now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's knock on wood, right, and keep our fingers crossed that the country continues to make somewhat of a comeback. I mean, obviously, COVID is not finished yet.
Not gone yet.
No, we still have people dying every day. It's tragic, but it looks like we're slowly but surely getting there. So. And,
I'm optimistic. I'm gonna stay optimistic because I've seen what COVID does, and it puts that doom and gloom like we talked about in that one. I just don't ever want to go back there. So
no,
it is a very concerted effort to stay positive when it's really hard to stay positive.
Yes.
And I just don't want to see things going backwards. We're on a good path right now to kind of going back to quote normal. So let's just not anybody do anything stupid. Let's keep it up. And I think we'll be in good shape in the fall and the winter.
Yes. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and let's, stay elevated.
Stay elevated, everybody. We'll see you next time.
You're running on empty with Matt and Tony.